Hey everyone, good morning. So, first of all, promises. This talk is more interesting than the title suggests. I couldn't make the title National Standards for Australian Museums and Galleries 2.0. Why is this so big and how do I use it? But that is effectively what this talk is going to be about. My goals for this talk for you are, number one, to show you that the national standards is not scary. It's a big document, but it's designed for you to use. It is not designed to be printed out, put on a shelf. It is designed to be an active, living document that you can dig into. This talk is also to teach you how to read the national standards. It is a bit overwhelming when you first open it. First of all, who here has read the national standards? I'm not talking cover to cover, just like at least opened it. Yeah, amazing, great. Who opened it and went, oh, yeah. This is to help you with that moment. Great. I also want to talk to you about what is the point of this? Why did we write it? What is the purpose of the national standards? And finally, I want to talk to you about money, our stipend program. For those of you who have had a look at it, applied for it, amazing. This is also for those of you who looked at it and went, oh, I don't know about this, or those of you who haven't heard about it yet. So, yay, it worked. Great. So, the national standards for Australian museums and galleries was first developed in about 2008. And hopefully you're all aware that we went through a huge, long process of redeveloping the national standards with help from the Ian Potter Foundation, launching earlier this year, back in February, March, around that time of the year. So the big changes are new content to reflect developments in museum, gallery best practice, new design. It looks pretty. You can see the original over to the side there, and this is our new design. Improved readability. We wanted to make it as easy to get through as possible. So this includes not only the actual flow of the document, which has been completely redeveloped. However, we have also made it much easier to read on a digital screen. So it is fully hyperlinked. You can click through to different sections. You can search it. It's a really easy document to read online. We've also updated the resources and the glossary, and the resources will be continually updated. So if any links drop, we will be updating them throughout the lifespan of this document. Our other key aspect was the inclusion of the First Peoples Roadmap, which has been developed inside the national standards. So the national standards was redeveloped with that document in mind. So this is what it looks like when you open it up. This is our contents page. The national standards is broken into 3 sections. So part A, part B, and part C. It is fully color coded. So it's nice and easy to flick through and see which section you are looking at. And this is how those 3 sections break down. So part A, that's about the internal running of your organisation. So this is anything to do with the internals of your organisation. So your governance structures, your board, your volunteers, all of those things inside your organisation, they're all in part A. Part B is all about interactions between your organisation and your visitors and the public. So these are things like your exhibitions, your policies related to visitors entering, visitor safety, all of those sorts of aspects. And part C is about your collection. So it's covering everything to do with your collection. So depending on which aspect of practice you're interested in or you need some help with, this is breaking down where to go. From there, the national standards is broken into a few different levels. So we have this handy dandy little diagram here. So those parts I mentioned, they're sort of your overarching band of the national standards. From there, the next step down are your principles. So your principles are the big sort of chunks, and then following down from that are your standards. The standards are practical, they're designed to be achievable, but they are guidelines. They're not rules. There's no museum police. We're not going to come and be like, hey, did you do a 1.3 exactly perfectly? Because these are going to look different for every single organisation. Your museum is not like the museum 3Ks down the road. You work differently, you have different focuses, so the standards are going to apply to you in different ways. They are aspirational, they're not prescriptive. So these are things for you to aspire towards to help you achieve best practice. They're not rules, they're not something that you have to do perfectly, they're things to work towards. Then down the bottom, we have our benchmarks. Benchmarks are basically your tick boxes. So each standard is broken down into a series of benchmarks. If you complete those benchmarks, you have completed the standard. That's effectively the way it works. Under each benchmark, there are just some tips, little bits and pieces to help you along the way. It's designed to be a practical document. It's designed to be something that you can read through and go, oh, these are things we can actually do. Let me show you what that looks like. Looks a bit like this. So this is right at the start of the national standards. This is principle A1, standard A1.1, benchmark A1.1.1, the very first one. So right here, you can see some of the tips that I mentioned. So it goes through exactly what you need to do and how to do it to achieve that benchmark, then to achieve that standard, then to achieve that principle. So the way that we read the national standards, I have a pointer, which is very exciting. Okay, here we go. Right? Thank you. Okay, great. So here we go. Principle is at the top. This gives you your overarching sort of theme for the whole section that all of the standards under A1 fall into. Then you have your standard. So for this one, it's that the organisation is properly constituted. Everything under standard A1.1 will ensure that you are properly constituted by completing all of the benchmarks under standard A.1, 1.1. Then this is the first benchmark. It's that you operate within a proper legal framework. It'll give you some tips down here under the little tip. Give you some tips as to how to achieve that. We're not going to leave you floundering. And then some resources down the bottom section here, where you can follow these links and actually get some help. Speaking of getting some help, you can always call me. So I'm always available to you. The rest of the Museums and Galleries New South Wales staff are always available to you, regardless of what the question might be. If we don't know the answer, we can find someone who knows the answer for you. If we don't have the resources, we will find someone who has the resources for you. Now, this is the exciting part, the money part. This is our Lights On, Doors Open stipend program. It is linked into the national standards. Who here has looked at or applied for the stipend program? Oh, wonderful. Great. Excellent. There's quite a few there. For those of you who haven't yet, this is a funding program. It is designed for volunteer organisations. So for museums, it is entirely volunteer-run museums. No paid staff. For Aboriginal cultural organisations, you are allowed to have up to 2 full-time equivalent paid staff. But for our museums, it is entirely volunteer-run. It is $2,000 per organisation. That's not up to $2,000, that is $2,000 flat. Everyone gets the same amount of money. It is funded by Create New South Wales, run by us at Museums and Galleries of New South Wales. It is for a huge variety of projects. So just to give you an idea of some of the things that we have funded electricity bills, we've funded rates, we've funded fixing the fence that fell down in the floods, we have funded fixing footpaths, promotion, conservation, display cases to store a wonderful lady mannequin who had a very nice uniform that the kids kept hugging. We've funded fire monitoring. We've funded getting the stairs fixed. Huge range of projects. This is designed for those projects that don't need funding anywhere else. The whole point of this is to take the strain off the volunteer force that we rely on to be able to then put your mind to the national standards. Now, the way that this works is when you apply for the Lights On Doors Open stipend program, you need to nominate 2 standards from Part A, Part A of the national standards, Principles 1 and 2, Standards, those ones there, any of these ones. So it are all of the standards that fall under Principles A1 and A2 are eligible. You just need to pick 2. Those 2 standards are goals for you to complete over the following 12 months. So from the point where you receive your funding, you then have 12 months to complete those 2 standards. When you acquit the grant, you do not acquit the funding, you acquit the 2 standards. We want this to be an opportunity for people to sort of dip their toes into the national standards. This is designed as sort of like an entry into the national standards. All you need to pick from are these ones here. So when you open it and you go, oh, that's really long, you don't need to be worried because these are the only ones you need to think about to start with. And then once you have sort of dipped your toes in, you've seen the national standards and you understand how to read it, then you can start to dig a little deeper and see, perhaps there are other things in here that we can use in our practice that might be useful to us. Pardon me. So these are my contact details here. Currently, we have had more than 50 museums apply and be successful for the stipend funding. We do still have funding left. This is the largest amount of money that has gone out to the volunteer museum sector in New South Wales. We would love to have as many of you apply for the money as possible. And I'm always here to answer any questions that you might have, particularly when it comes to the national standards or the stipend program. We'd love to have you apply. Thank you very much. And any questions?
Thanks, Emily. That was great. So are there any questions? Anybody, if you could put your hand up and we'll bring a mic. So, Miff, we're going to bring a mic to you. Amy's going to pass the mic down to you. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Em. We're all volunteers apart from one part-time paid person. What's it going to cost us?
So, with Bateman's Bay,
Yes.
I've already spoken to Ewan, and you have already applied.
Yes.
Now, with your situation, it's a little bit different because your person is a contractor that was
Yes.
applied on a specific project grant basis. So in that case, you are eligible.
Woohoo!
If you have a paid staff member and they are employed on a grant-specific program, then I would consider you eligible. So no need to worry about that. If you have a gardener that comes once a fortnight and does your lawns, you are eligible. That isn't a worry. This is if you have paid museum staff on a permanent basis. That is the criteria.
So, do we have any other questions from the audience about... one down the front. Thank you. Oh, sorry, down here, Amy. No, thank you.
I was just wondering if you were super keen and you got one of the grants and you whizzed through your standards and there was still money left in the program, can you apply again?
That is a good question. Unfortunately not. It is a one and done. However, this is a pilot program. We are hoping that this will continue and that this will just be the first step of a 3-year program. So this would be your first year. Your second year will be Part B of the standards. It will be another $2,000. And your third year will be Part C of the standards. It will be another $2,000. So that is the aim of this program. This is a pilot. Moving forward, that is the goal, is that this will be a 3-year program that you will be a part of to go through A, B, and C of the standards.
We have another question from Adrian. Juliana, are you over that side? No, she's missing. So Amy's going to hand you the mic now. Thanks.
I just want to say thank you for our grant. And it's interesting that the one standard that we chose was our constitution, which has given us a year to revise our constitution and to make changes to that. So thank you for prompting us to get it done. Thanks.
You are very welcome. I'm hoping that that is what this does. Yeah, so the aim is that it gives you that little bit of breathing room and a little bit of a prompt to go, we haven't looked at that in a while, and now we don't have to go out and do a bake sale. Now we can actually put that effort into our constitution or whatever it may be.
So, anybody else have a question for Emily? All good? Okay. So thanks so much, Emily. Let's give her a round of applause.